At the office, I stood frozen, heart pounding, 2 days after my father's funeral, my eyes still brimmed with tears. My boss, cold, calculating, leaned close with a smirk. "You cry too much for this job." Those words echoed in the meeting room like a verdict. Every colleague pretended not to notice. The color drained from my face. Outside, the sky threatened rain. Inside, grief and humiliation intertwined. I swallowed the wordless ache, held my head high, and answered calmly, "I'm still ready to work." The room went silent. After that moment, everything shifted in microseconds. I could feel the disdain in his posture, but also something else, a challenge. I vowed quietly, "You will regret saying that." And I set to work. Behind polite mask, I poured myself into pivotal projects, double-checking data, anticipating every question before it was asked. At the same time, I buried my hurt beneath a facade of professionalism. Every step was deliberate, a calculated push against humiliation. Weeks passed. The team noticed. Small gestures, a colleague leaving me a supportive note, another asking for help. I began to see subtle shifts, recognition where before there was silence. I kept moving, keeping emotions channeled into results. And when that boss asked for my resignation, actually, I offered it first, the tables quietly turned. Finally, my courage paid off. My boss was promoted out, moved on. 6 months to the day, I walked into his office. Light filtered through blinds. The plaque on the door bore my name. In silence, I sat. I didn't need to say a word. I had taken his seat, not by force, but by conviction. The grief-tense memory still lingered, but also pride, from tears dismissed to leadership affirmed. That day, I went to work wearing the same clothes I wore to the funeral. Not because I forgot, but because nothing else made sense. My father had been my biggest supporter. When I started at that company, he told me, "You've got everything it takes to lead. You just need someone to give you a shot." And now, he was gone. And the only thing my boss could say was, "You cry too much for this job." It wasn't about productivity. It was about empathy. About being human. I didn't cry because I was weak. I cried because I had lost my ground. I could have spoken back. I could have screamed. But in that moment, I realized it was better to stay quiet and observe. Because while he laughed at my grief, something lit up inside me. I started seeing clearly who was who in that office. Who wore suits and who wore masks. And more importantly, who was actually running that company. Spoiler, it wasn't him. Slowly, I rebuilt my routine. My hours, my pace, my rituals. I started arriving before everyone else, even when the pain barely let me sleep. I revised spreadsheets, submitted reports that weren't mine, prevented mistakes that would have caused crises. I wasn't looking for praise. I just wanted to prove, to myself, to my father, to the universe, that I deserved to be there. That emotion wasn't weakness. It was the strength to keep going. One day, he called me into his office. Said I was doing a bit better. That phrase boiled my blood. But again, I breathed in. "I'm a work in progress," was all I said. He smirked and turned back to his computer. But I saw it. I saw he was bothered by my resilience. Because people like him don't know how to handle those who won't break. The turning point came where he least expected. A longtime client asked to work only with me. She said, "With her, I feel heard." That echoed through the whole floor. Because he had always been loud. But me? I'm the kind of silence that makes people uncomfortable. The kind that grows and takes space. The following month, the owner of the company flew in from another city. He wanted to understand why one account was outperforming every other. I was called to present the results. My boss tried to jump in, but I heard it clearly, "Let her present. I already know your style." At that moment, he swallowed hard. And for the first time, lowered his eyes. In that meeting, I didn't use fancy charts. I told stories. I explained how we recovered a failing project. How active listening saved a negotiation. How empathy led to profit. The owner listened in silence. And at the end, he said, "You've got potential for much more." My boss sat frozen. Because without any fight, I had one. A few weeks later, my boss announced he was leaving the company. Said it was a new phase. But the truth was clear, his cycle had ended. And that same month, I received the offer. Not to take his role, but to redefine it. A new position, tailored for someone with vision and emotional intelligence. I accepted without hesitation. The day I moved into my new office, I walked in alone. No applause. No celebration. But I sat down, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. On the wall, I placed the one thing that reminded me of my dad, a handwritten note he gave me on my first day of work. Cry if you need to. But keep walking. And that's how I got here. Crying. And walking. Sometimes, the cruelest words come when we're already broken. And sometimes, those words come from the very people who should lead with compassion. But what this story teaches us, what her journey proves, is that pain doesn't always break us. It shapes us. Refines us. Strengthens us. In a world that often rewards silence over emotion and coldness over empathy, standing tall with tears in your eyes is an act of quiet revolution. We've all faced our own versions of that meeting room. Maybe it wasn't a boss, maybe it was a family member, a teacher, a stranger. Someone who told you were too emotional, too soft, too much. But let me tell you this, your softness is not a flaw. Your emotion is not a weakness. Because strength isn't loud. Sometimes, strength is crying and still showing up. It's being underestimated and still choosing to grow. It's being humiliated and still choosing to rise, not to get revenge, but to reclaim your worth. This story is not just about one woman. It's about all of us. All of us who've walked back into rooms where we were once small and sat down as someone new. Thank you, truly, for staying with me until the end of this story. If this journey moved something in you, please don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who might need it. Comment below, what was your moment of silent strength? Your story matters. Your voice matters. And above all, you belong here. See you in the next one.